This revision video will discuss common debates across duty of care and breach. The following are contentious issues for duty of care. Whether the court was right to confine Caparo to novel cases, and how much weight should policy considerations be given in the duty of care inquiry. The Caparo case was controversial for a number of reasons. First, it expanded the scope of damage to pure economic loss. Secondly, it attempted to establish a general test for duty of care, and thirdly, it was in contravention of the equity principle. One way to determine if the court was right is to compare the advantages and disadvantages of a general test, and then do the same thing for the incremental approach. This equity principle issue could also factor into how much weight policy considerations should be given in the duty of care inquiry. Some examples of policy considerations are preventing defensive policing, comparing resources of defendant and plaintiff, and not opening floodgates. To explore this question, it would be useful to compare cases which were heavily decided on policy and what you believe the general aims of tort to be, distributive versus corrective justice. For breach of duty, some contentious issues are the objective standard of care and the Bolam test. For breach, the defendant has to fail to meet a standard of care reasonably expected of them. This presents a problem to people who do not have the capacity to attain a reasonable standard. There are some exceptions allowed for children and emergency situations, but no such allowances are made for mentally ill people as seen in Dunnage. One reason for this is that it should not be a lucky dip whether the claimant is compensated for their injury based on the characteristics of the defendant. The Bolam test has to acknowledge the standards of the profession and the expertise of the defendant, whilst also not showing unwavering deference. It would be useful to evaluate if the Botholio edition deals with some of the issues better and some of the debate surrounding Sidaway. One broader argument across all of negligence is what the aim of tort is. We can begin to explore this argument through breach. There are two ways of looking at negligence as corrective or distributive justice. For corrective justice, an admission that the defendant caused the harm to the victim is needed. This shows the overlap between legal and moral wrong. An example of potential distributive justice is seen in Nettleship, where a learner driver was held to need to exhibit the same standard of care as a competent driver, it being impossible for her to attain this standard. The reason for this was to provide equality within the law so that people could still get compensation even if the person who injured them could not show the necessary level of care.